People are excited about having a proven conservative fighter to go to Washington and save this country.
We're back to talk about the Republican in Missouri's U.S. Senate race, State Attorney General Eric Schmitt. He's from Bridgeton, Missouri, outside St. Louis. He spent time as an attorney before a career in politics, starting as an alderman and spending nearly a decade in the Missouri State Senate, then becoming treasurer and now Attorney General. He is endorsed by former President Donald Trump, echoing many of the talking points and issues Trump supports. We would love to ask him about his body of work, lawsuits lodged as AG, and claims made by his campaign. But he hasn't returned any of our repeated requests for an interview. That does not stop us from making sure that you're informed before you vote. So please welcome our roundtable of journalists, Brian Ellison, host contributor with KCUR, and KABC9 political reporter Michael Mahoney. Okay, gentlemen, let's talk about the strategy, first off, of not sitting down for interviews and answering some harder questions unless they're with a conservative media outlet or a pundit that's maybe a bit more friendly. What's behind that?
He doesn't have to.
Just not at all.
Well, he has probably a double-digit lead. It might be in the mid-teens by now, and so he and his campaign have made it staff to limit his exposure to spontaneous interviews. He has done some brief news conferences on the spur of the moment at campaign events, gaggles as they're called in the business. He did one recently in Raymore during a stop with Ted Cruz and Mark Alford, who's running for Congress in the Missouri 4th. But that's when one of the few times I personally, as a reporter, have had an opportunity to ask him a few questions. And in 3-4 minutes, you can't get into anything with depth.
The reality is that it's a sign of the polarization that we're experiencing in the American political process. Folks talk to the media outlets that are going to support their views. It is a turnout game, and the more they can fire up, in the case of Attorney General Schmitt, his Republican conservative base, the better chance he thinks he has of winning. And of course, we've seen that in the polls in this race. As Michael said, the latest poll has him winning 51% to 39% over Trudy Bush Valentine.
Right, doesn't really even need to reach out to moderates at this point.
Well, the thing about it is like Brian just said, we are in a tribal climate in our politics right now, and folks pretty much have a set point of view. Perfect case, as an example of this, is the Senate race in Pennsylvania, where John Fetterman, who's clearly recovering from a stroke, had a terrible debate. And then there's Herschel Walker down in Georgia, who has a set of personal problems that have been fairly well discussed. And in both those states, folks are saying, Democrats, I'm voting for Fetterman despite the physical limitations right now because we need the Senate seat. And there are Republicans down in Georgia doing the same thing, saying, I'm voting for Walker because he might have some issues, but we need the Senate seat. It's very tribal.
And make no mistake, even to the extent that there have been issues discussed in this race, both candidates return again and again to their own party's positions.
Yeah.
They are running as their party's representatives. That's going to work better for Schmitt than for Valentine in this state.
We mentioned the Emerson College poll at the top of our broadcast. Pollsters also asked Missouri voters which issue is the most important to them, and the economy was by far the #1 issue. Schmitt has really worked hard to highlight Trudy Bush Valentine's wealth. Listen to this.
I am running against an opponent, again, who's completely out of touch. I come from working class roots. I mentioned my dad worked 7 days a week in the midnight shift. I took out the trash and gave tours at the estate she grew up on, and she has no ability to relate to regular folks.
So is that message resonating with voters?
It seems to be, at the very least, that consistently sort of negative attack on Trudy Bush Valentine, either that or her inability to put forward a positive message of her own seems to have had an impact. That same Emerson College poll a month ago showed her with a 41% favorable rating. Now, she's gained only 1 point in favorable ratings. She's 42-42 in the latest poll. What that tells us, I think, is that for whatever reason, her message of trying to talk about the positive ways her family fortune has tried to support the state, her commitment to generosity and philanthropy in the state, it isn't getting through.
You know, from that clip that we just played a second ago, you can see Schmitt there, and in the background you can see Ted Cruz. I covered that event, and I asked Schmitt there, he said, why do you keep calling your opponent names? An heiress, a limousine liberal. And he was absolutely comfortable with defending and saying, well, that's because that's what she is. She's an heiress, she's wealthy, she's a limousine liberal, she'll be with Joe Biden on everything, even though she's never cast a vote in Congress, because she's not in elective office. But he wouldn't back away from that, although during the back half of that little brief opportunity we got, he laid off calling her an heiress or a limousine liberal.
In fairness, remember, she's running against incredible headwinds headwinds in Missouri.
Oh,
right
yeah.
now, President Biden's disapproval rating is 60% compared to 35% favorable in that same Emerson College poll. So she would have a huge mountain to climb under the best of circumstances, and of course, these have not been the best of circumstances.
For sure. All right, we'll leave it there for now. Brian Ellison, Michael Mahoney, thank you so much.